Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for being with us. What, if anything, do you know about homeschooling in general and specifically in Tennessee? Is it something you have thought about doing or wish you would have done? Maybe you wish your kids would homeschool your grandkids. What is the process for homeschooling your kids in Tennessee? What are the pros and cons on homeschooling? What legislation is in the General Assembly this year that might impact homeschooling? Our guest tonight, Claiborne Thornton, can answer those questions and more. He is the founder and chairman of Tennessee Homeschool Education Association, also known as THEA, and he's been involved with homeschooling for over 40 years. We'll hear from him in just a minute, but first a word from our sponsor, LifeWave, a unique product that uses light reflection to activate the body's own natural energy, supporting healing, improving performance, and combating aging without drugs or stimulants. Check it out, and we'll be right back with our guest.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us? Not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate. Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Now to our guest, Claiborne Thornton. And thank you for being with us. How are you doing today?
Doing very nicely, sir. Appreciate so much the opportunity to be with you and to talk a little bit about homeschooling, one of my passions.
Well, glad to have you. Well, let's get right to it. So, how did you get involved in homeschooling?
My wife and I went to Bible school and were very deeply impacted by that process. And while we were there, my wife already knew about, and I found out about Francis Schaeffer. Dr. Schaeffer challenged me very strongly to believe what the Bible says about life. And when he turned to Deuteronomy 6, it said, "Fathers, teach your children, train them in the way they should go. When you rise up, when you lie down, when you walk in the way, spend time with your kids, train them." I saw that and I thought, okay, that's what God wants me to do. So as soon as my children became of school age, they were enrolled in a school. And I listened to Dr. Raymond Moore on Dr. James Dobson's radio program. It was 1980. My wife listened to the program during the day, and we both listened that night. The next year, we listened again, and we decided in 1981 to start homeschooling our kids. So it's been a matter of obedience on our part to try to fulfill what God has called us to do. I had gone to public school. My wife had. She was an art major. I'm an engineer. So my wife said, "I don't know how to teach kids how to read. What am I going to do?" So, and we launched out into something that was a stretch for us, and we endeavored to be obedient and to be faithful in doing that.
Sounds like you must have grew into it, huh?
Kind of did, yes, sir. Yeah, kind of a year at a time is almost, well, can we do it another year? Yeah. So
Now,
we got into it there.
in the 80s, homeschooling was not near as common as it is now, was it?
Well, we met our first homeschoolers in Tennessee through the Nashville Banner newspaper. They were in the first page of the second section, and they'd gotten arrested for homeschooling. So we called them up and went over and had supper with them, found out that the police had shown up there at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and the mom and dad and 4 kids were all in the bed, and police, were going to take them in and they said, look, if we don't, it's just, y'all are just a family. I mean, if we don't take you in now, would y'all promise to come in tomorrow and get fingerprinted? And they said, sure, we'll be glad to. So they had a field trip down to the Metro Courthouse the next day and went in to get fingerprinted. The guy doing the fingerprinting said, no, I'm not going to do this. So anyway, we got to know those folks, and that was how we got started knowing homeschoolers in Tennessee.
What happened to that couple? What exactly did they charge him with?
Well, they charged them with truancy. Their school, the local district superintendent is charged with the responsibility of making sure that every student that is in their school district area that is under the age of compulsory attendance,
Right.
is in what he would define as a school. So if he says it's a school, then it's a school. If he says it's not, it's not. There's state law definition of some of the different terms in there, but ultimately that superintendent makes that decision. If he says that's not a school, then by George, you're not in school, and you're required to do that. So he went after them with truancy. They found an attorney who represented them in court, and the attorney knew the district superintendent. I mean, it was Tom Shriver at the time, and he said, I called up Tom, just told him, said, Tom, I got you on this one. These people got their curriculum. He said, you're going to waste your time if you go after these people. So Shriver called up the superintendent and said, look, I got murder, I got rape, I got robbery. Y'all, please, y'all just figure something out with these folks here. So they had gotten curriculum material, and they were busily engaged in teaching their kids. So everything got settled out. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shame you had to that they had to go through all those hoops, though.
Yeah, but that was better than the Saints. I mean, she got arrested. She spent the night in jail down in Coffee County. So, and the folks down in Chattanooga later, he wound up he had to go after he got to work. He just stayed at work for months because he was on with the sheriff couldn't come onto the property to arrest him, so he just stayed there. His wife brought him clothes and food and stuff like that.
Wow.
So that one is, and Miss Zane had been teaching in the local school there, and she and her husband I think they had 2 kids and adopted 3, and she was teacher in the school, and she decided to homeschool. So when she stopped teaching, she took out her 5 kids to teach them at home. Then that meant that school lost a teacher position because the number of students went down low enough
Right.
that it couldn't qualify for that teaching position. So the superintendent was somewhat upset. And there's these little tangled messes like this all over. And so Mr. Sane was a contractor. So when they came there, said, well, you don't have a schoolhouse. Okay. So they grew peppers one summer and sold the peppers and bought enough concrete block to make a school out in the backyard. And the superintendent came back, well, that's not really a good school, So he was still not happy. So we had 5 families in court at the time in 1984. In 2 of those court cases, the compulsory attendance statute was struck down as unconstitutionally vague. So for the year of 1984-85, we had no compulsory attendance statute in Tennessee because the courts had struck down the law as being unconstitutionally vague. So the legislature was quite intent about getting a law passed so they could restore that compulsory attendance.
Right.
And that's the year that we were able to, by having incredibly intense times. Every week we were at the legislature for 84 and 85. And every weekend the THEA board was meeting, trying to figure out a way to get something put together that could pass legislative muster and get signed into law. So God blessed us with that, and we were finally able to get something in. And it was a pretty intense work there for those 2 years.
So the THEA board you mentioned, so you put this together during that time frame?
Well, that's almost right.
Sounds good, right?
Dr. Moore came to Nashville at our request, not us, but the attorneys that were involved in helping those families asked him to come. And so he came. And that was January of 84. And he we reached out and tried to find every homeschooler in the state. Got about 250 men, women, and children there. And one of the attorneys said, well, let's put signs up around the auditorium, Memphis, Jackson, Nashville. And so when they took a break, they said, everybody go to your closest area. So Chattanooga, Knoxville, everything. So people went to their area, and each one of those groups selected a leader. And so that person became the area coordinator, the president of that chapter at that meeting. Well, Dr. Moore didn't want to take but a 30-minute lunch break for that crazy day of meeting. And so I volunteered to make hot dogs so the people wouldn't have to go away. They could just go downstairs and get some hot dogs and go back up and eat. And so in the first meeting of the board, that was in January, in March, the first meeting happened. And I got a call, said, were you the guy that was down there cooking hot dogs? I said, yeah. I said, would you like to be president of the THEA board? And I said, yeah, I guess so. So you went down there cooking hot dogs, no telling what's liable to happen to you.
From head cook to the head of the TFA or the THEA.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to serve from then until now as president. So
THEA, that's Tennessee Homeschool Education Association.
Tennessee Home Education Association. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who makes that? That's the board, and that's the different districts as far as.
Yeah, we have the state divided up into 8 geographic chapters, and the homeschoolers in each of those chapters, who are members of THEA, select the leaders for that chapter. So Memphis, Jackson, Paris, Nashville, Chattanooga, Athens, Knoxville, and Tri-City. So each of those has a chapter, and then we have a statewide chapter called the Christian Communicators of Tennessee that promotes speech and debate for homeschoolers all across the state. So and the leaders of each of those chapters serves as a state board, and then they elect state officers, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. So that's we try to divide up the work. So at the THEA level, the primary thing that we focus on there is working with the legislature, working with HSLDA, trying to keep up with what's going on at the state, federal levels. The area coordinators, some of their boards are bigger than the THEA board, and they're the ones that really provide the graduation ceremonies. They provide help to sponsor and start the co-ops and tutorials. They have the special spring events, the proms, the different activities, the sporting events, soccer, basketball, archery, bowling. I mean, the activities that the homeschoolers involved in. The Chattanooga group they do a Gilbert and Sullivan play every year. So, the local area decides what their area wants to do, their homeschool group wants to do. And then so they join THA by joining their local chapter. You can't join THA directly. You can only join the local chapter.
Okay.
When you do that, you become a member of THA. So THA's job is to keep up with the legislature and to have our Rally Day event at the Capitol,
right,
where we invite all the homeschoolers in the state to come to Nashville March 16, March 17 this year on Tuesday. And we'll have programs in the Capitol and Cordell Hull building all through the day, starting at 8:45 in the morning until probably about 4 in the afternoon usually. And we ask all the homeschoolers, get an appointment with your representative and your senator, go sit down and meet with them. We'll give you a bag of cookies to take to them. And but we'll have a good program, have a good chance to encourage you to go meet with your representatives. So we want them, when they get ready to vote, we want them to be looking right at you.
Right. So what laws had to be passed in order to allow you to homeschool your kids? Or what laws did they pass when their old statute was struck down, I guess?
Yeah. So what they did is they came up with a new part of the law, 49-6-30-50, and they drafted that bill initially, requiring people to sign up with the local superintendent. So that would have been the way that all the homeschoolers would have had to work. But then a group of people approached Senator Donovan, who was the Senate sponsor of the bill, and asked him if he would put a provision in there to allow homeschoolers to sign up with church-related schools. And so the idea of that is that if somebody's got a church-related school and they want to open up an umbrella, they can allow homeschoolers to enroll in that church-related school. And we, at the time, 95% plus of the people that signed up to homeschool signed up with that local church-related school. Only about 5% signed up with a local superintendent because the local superintendent offers no services.
Right.
You want testing, you want curriculum support, you want help with selecting textbooks, you got a child's got learning problems and you want trying to diagnose that. The superintendent offers nothing. They don't offer graduation, they don't have permanent records, they offer nothing. So homeschoolers sign up with a local church-related school or a statewide church-related school because they can get a full range of services, educational services that help them be able to provide for their kids the kind of educational opportunity they're looking for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does it work right now in terms of what the current law for, let's say, testing your kids? They're going to go, they're fifth graders and they've got to, pass a test to be able to be promoted to the sixth grade, or how does that operate right now? Who does the testing? Who verifies it? What are the hoops you jump through really for the whole thing, I guess? I mean, I understand that you put them primarily to go under a Christian school, generally speaking, but what are the current hoops for homeschoolers just to operate?
Well, you've asked a complicated question. It'll take a minute.
That's fine.
Okay. If you sign up with a local superintendent, then you're required to be tested in grades 5, 7, and 9. Okay.
Okay.
Those tests that's currently required is a TCAP test. Tennessee, what's the name? TCAP. I can't think of what the acronym stands for.
Comprehensive Achievement.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
Tennessee Comprehensive Achievement Performance, I guess. But that is an end of course test that is for the taking the textbooks that's required by the state of Tennessee, and then here's the test that goes with that textbook.
Okay.
So it's an unfair test, but we couldn't get rid of that test. That's what's in the state law right now. If you sign up with a church-related school, if the church-related school requires their fourth graders to take a test, then the homeschoolers that are in the umbrella that are in the fourth grade would also be required to take that test. If the church-related school does not require the test, although they may offer tests for the parents that want one, homeschoolers would not be required to take that. So the church-related school has a lot of latitude about what they're going to require of their day school students, and then that same requirement becomes a requirement for the homeschoolers that are enrolled in their school. So what that means is that in order to satisfy the compulsory attendance statute, you must be enrolled either with a superintendent or with a church-related school.
Okay.
That satisfies the law concerning compulsory attendance. Then the question is, what can I do to get my child the best education possible and the best measurement tools for seeing how they're doing? How do I evaluate their progress? And some people want to test their children every 2 or 3 years. Some want to test every year. Some want to test twice while they're, K to 12. There's a lot of variability there. You can tell when you're talking to somebody one-on-one, like I'm talking with you, you can look at somebody's face and you got a good idea if they're understanding or not,
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so parent and child having that conversation, whether it's math or science or whatever it is, that mama, that daddy's got a pretty good idea if their
Right.
child is getting that or if they're not getting it. Are they just, are they plugged in with you? And you can tell.
Right.
So a lot of people, it is a more personal test like that than it is a required kind of testing.
So if you're in a church school, is there a test required for graduation?
That again, that's a requirement of the church-related school and how they want to set that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, for the church-related, if you're under the church umbrella, you don't have, there's not necessarily a requirement for a test. Okay, it's up to it would be up to the church the church school, if they do testing, right?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay. If you sign up with the LEA, then you're going to do the test of the time frames of so like fifth, I think it was third, fifth, and seventh grade that they did.
When the law was originally passed, it was 3, 5, 7, 9. They took out the third grade test because it was found to not be as productive, as useful as they thought it might be initially.
Okay.
So,
And also, if you're under the LEA, then you have compulsory attendance requirements, right?
well, every child that are in the ages of confinement, as I refer to it,
That's
must
accurate.
be in what the local superintendent calls a school. Some of those are defined by law, some of them, but there's some discretion left up to the superintendent. But so the compulsory attendance statute is the legal requirement, and notice I said compulsory attendance. I didn't say
Right.
education, but attendance.
Right.
That's the legal requirement. Then the question is, as a parent, okay, I've satisfied the law, but now how do I get a good education for my child?
Right.
That's a different question from satisfying the law. Yeah.
So those umbrella schools under the church, what are so their requirements for attendance are the same or not?
Yes, they're 180 days a year, I think, is where we are now, with some days for, teacher training or whatever.
Okay.
But there's a statute that was formed, I think, in the 70s, 495801, that defines a certain number of church-related school authorizing organizations.
Okay.
And so if you're a member of one of those organizations, if your school is a member of one of those organizations, and you have to comply with that organization's requirements for the maintenance of your church-related school status.
Okay.
And then if you want to then, as a church-related school, allow homeschoolers to enroll, that's a decision that individual schools make.
Okay. But either way, it's 180 days for the most part
Right.
okay,
Right.
whether you're under a church umbrella or whether you're under an LEA.
Right.
That's the minimum compulsory days that you have to attend.
Right.
Okay, or maybe confinement days. That would maybe be a little more accurate description.
Yes, sir. That'd be another way of looking at it. Sure would.
We talked a little bit before we got started, and now I'm just gonna go ahead and go to this. So, do you think it was a mistake for us as a society to defer to the degree that we have where parental rights are concerned? And really, I'm talking about the whole compulsory education, which is really compulsory attendance. And we can look around and see it's obviously not compulsory education. It's compulsory attendance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think this is the macro level issue that is in education. From 1796, when the state was formed, until 1905, the state of Tennessee had free education. Our state constitution has in it that the legislature would make available a free system of public schools.
Right.
And that is what a free people need in order to become educated, and in order to have citizens sufficiently educated for the republic to continue. In 1905, we adopted a foreign model. I can show you on page 94 of my copy of the Communist Manifesto where it came from, that there would be a compulsory attendance. You will find that in Nazi Germany law that's still in effect in Germany. You'll find that in the Soviet Union. You'll find it in any, what I would call, repressive regime on earth. And why that is on the books in a free state and a free country, I have no idea. I've tried to talk the legislature into doing an analysis of the cost and the effectiveness of education in 3 years to compare 2000, 1950, 1900, and to see what the effectiveness of the educational system was and what the cost of the educational system is. And I believe that if we did a good study, it'd be hard to get the data, but a good study, I think that we will find that the quality of education in our country, John Taylor Gatto, the way he described it, he said that you can count it, we have lost a year of education for each decade of compulsion.
Wow.
So for every year, every decade of compulsion in Tennessee, we've lost a year of educational attainment. It used to be with an eighth grade education, most people left school, and that was the education they needed to be effectively engaged in our culture and be responsible, productive citizens.
Right.
Not the case today.
That's not even the case today with 12 years of education for a lot of them.
That's exactly, yeah. So the quality has gone down, and I think it's perfectly intentional. I don't think there's any lack of intention on that. I believe that was the intention, not of our legislators and not of our educators, certainly not the fault of teachers, but the fault of people that designed the system, that are reaping the benefits of the system the way it's currently set up. So my prayer is that God will give us mercy and we'll be able to change that and return to fathers, train your children.
Yeah. And I've got a text question came in, which I think you really just addressed it, but I'll just go ahead and read it but I think you already answered it. Does THEA support repealing compulsory attendance laws? Do they feel they are constitutional? And I think I understood you, but and I guess it may not be an official position of THEA. Is it an official position of THEA, or is that just a?
It was a significant surprise when I asked for a meeting with Commissioner Jane Walters, who is head of the Department of Education under Don Sundquist. When I went into her and presented her my letter requesting that the compulsory attendance statute be removed. So I'm not exactly sure what she did with it. I know that the compulsory attendance statute still exists, but that was and has been and will be the position of THEA as far as I'm concerned. It has been our position from day one, because when God says, "Fathers, train your children,"
Yep.
when God entrusted my wife and me with 3 children, and He told us, "Train your children."
Right.
That is a sacred, holy, powerful command from my King. And the civil government can try to intervene in that and disrupt that, or the civil government can try to support that.
Right.
Right now, the intervention is operational, not the support.
Yeah.
We have more support now than we did in 1980, but still the principle is there. Compulsory attendance. We come and take your children away from you, and we put them into what we call a school, confined to that because of their age.
Right.
Classic class action lawsuit. Just because of your age, you're confined to a state institution. To me, that's a classic class action lawsuit waiting to happen. I don't know why it hadn't, but it hadn't yet. I've been an advocate of that one too. So
well, maybe it needs to. I think it does need to.
Yeah.
And this is not something that I really thought about a whole lot before. I mean, I guess just because I always grew up with, okay, yeah, you got to go to school. If you don't go to school, then the truant officer will get you, and then you're really in trouble with your parents and whatever. But no, you're right. This is something parents should be doing. Now, let me ask you this: prior to, you said we had free education prior to 1905. So basically, okay, the schools were funded by the state, but there was no compulsion. Was that the deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I talked with when I first moved back to Nashville in 1970s, a gentleman befriended me. He was 80 years old. He's from Buffalo Valley, and he grew up there in Buffalo Valley. He said that they went to school for 3 months out of the year, and he said that some of the business leaders there were successful at hiring a math tutor who would be willing to come and add another month to their school for those families of those businessmen that were able to afford that. He said that the local community there, they said those leaders decided, we ought to just make this open to everybody that would like to come and have, learn from this tutor for an extra month of school. And so that kind of model, that kind of community engagement is to me a vastly superior in that it recognizes the authority given to mom and dad to be responsible for educating their kids. And one of the things that's fun to me, Dan, Dave, is going down to in the Amish country and to see their little one-room schoolhouses dotted across the countryside out there.
Yep.
And they go to school until they're eighth grade, and then they're done.
Yep.
And the state recognizes that. And I'm thinking that's kind of cool. And when I grew up in Haywood County, there were, I think, 23 one-room schoolhouses dotted across the countryside. And that one-room schoolhouse was an incredible engine of education.
Yep.
So you have a teacher there, and that teacher answered to the local parents, and kids came in there, and the older kids, hey, get in here a little bit early and build a fire so the school's warmed up. And hey, you ask the 10th grader if he'd help the fifth grader, with their math lesson or with their history lesson or something, so that there was a blending.
You had built-in tutors.
Yeah, built-in tutors.
Yep.
And you got a teacher there coordinating that. That teacher was the superintendent and the teacher and the family, community relations person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to get to the legislation, but before we get to that, if somebody wants to start homeschooling, they just reach out to THEA or reach out to the local THEA group.
Yeah, the easy way to do that is to just reach out to the local group there, and if they come through the website, then we can get them directed over. And but we encourage families that want to homeschool, because you can literally start any time of year, and there are church-related schools that would let you enroll. And there's some restrictions about enrolling with a superintendent, but the church-related schools, there's several of them that'll let you enroll year-round. And there's help there. There's local support groups and sports teams and many different services available for homeschoolers. We got, there's homeschoolers all across the state right now. We estimate that there's about 70,000 homeschoolers across the state of Tennessee right now. So that's about the same number of students that are in all the private schools, parochial, church-related, all those added together.
Right.
Is about 80,000. So there's about 70,000 homeschoolers, about 1 million children in public schools, K to 12.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's a pretty good number of students.
So on the phone, we talked about House Bill 1729 by Slater, and that's Senate Bill 2636 by Senator Roberts. And then we also talked about Senate Bill 1968 and House Bill 1823. That's by Lowe and Raper. So is THEA supporting those bills? If so, why or why not? Are you supporting them? Yes or no? And what changes do you think there needs to be to them, if any?
One of the things that's fun every year when the legislature goes into session is that they come up with bills like that out of concerns for different reasons. And 1729. Representative Slater has worked diligently for the last 6 years to try to get the CLT test offered as an alternative test to the ACT or SAT, which is used for college entrance. During the time that he's been working on that, CLT has added some additional testing for the pre-college, for high school and on down into the grade schools. And they in the lower grades, not for college entrance, but for testing, they have developed what's called a nationally normed standardized achievement test. And it's like the SAT test, the Iowa test of basic skills. The nationally normed standardized achievement test is given widely, and the idea of it is to be able to assess how your child is doing as compared with students all across the country. So it's not a end of course test like the TCAP is. It's an assessment test. So can be a useful tool to evaluate, well, hey, my child's doing great in math, they're doing great in English, but they could use some extra study in science or history, and so you can see where they're strong and where they could be stronger. So that's what a nationally normed standardized achievement test does. So Slater has worked to get that in as a post-college test or post-high school test. But now this bill, this year, he's also added a section to add into those that sign up with the superintendent, and it only is effective for those students to insert into the law in Section 5 of 49.63050B to put in there taking the TCAP test or a nationally normed standardized achievement test. And in our discussions with him, he has, we raised concern about the third section of his bill dealing with Section 6. Oh, Lord, Section 6 in the existing law is just the biggest mess you can imagine. The good thing about that mess is that, as far as I know, over these 40, almost 2 years now, 41 years, there's never been a student that's been required to leave homeschooling because of that penalty section that's in Section 6. But in talking with him now, there is an interest on his part and on our part of removing Section 6. And it's my understanding that the amendment that he's going to offer, not this week, I believe, but next week, is going to be an amendment to remove Section 6. So that would be from the existing law,
Right.
which that would be a wonderful blessing, because it'd get rid of that onerous, heavy-handed piece of legislation, piece of law.
Basically, that one currently allows if you don't score well enough on the test, I think after 2 times and it may just be 1 time, the director of schools, even though you may be a homeschool child, the director of schools can then say, well, okay, Mom, Dad, you're just not hacking it, and we can put you into direct you to a district school. Is that a correct understanding of how it's written?
The way that the law is currently written, and the way that the bill that he has proposed is written, it only affects those students that are signed up with the local superintendent. So if you're signed up with a church-related school umbrella program, the law at that part and this bill at that part has no effect. It is only for those that are signed up with the local superintendent. Okay. that this test and the consequence of failure to perform on that test are active.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, that sounded really heavy-handed. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, I thought homeschoolers would probably want as little to do with government as possible. I mean, that just seemed like really heavy-handed. So I was kind of surprised to see that in the bill. But I'm glad you explained that.
There's another piece of that which would be fun to explain sometime, which I'd be happy to do. But I really think I ought to wait until we see if we can get that part taken out of the law. If we can get that taken out, that'd be awesome.
You're not going to tell me what that part is?
Huh?
I said, you're not going to tell me what that is?
Well, I kind of hesitate to do that right now. So
okay.
I've been known to be controversial sometimes, Dave.
Okay. So, but this bill when's he going to? The amendment has to be heard in committee. Is that scheduled?
Right. I think that's 9:00. Not tomorrow, but next week is when he plans to introduce that amendment to it. I haven't read the amendment. I've just talked with Representative Slater, whom I've known for 20 years. He used to come to curriculum fairs, and he and his wife with materials there. So I had the pleasure of knowing him for many years, and he is in the process of making that change.
Okay, well, let's
and the attorney with CLT is happy with the change. So
okay, now CLT is also an LLC, right?
Oh, I don't know how they're formed. I would assume they are.
Okay,
it's definitely, it's not part of the state though. It's a separate entity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Senate Bill 1968 by Lowe, and then the House version by Raper. This has to do with truancy. And
yeah, in talking with Senator Lowe, I've spoken with him some, and our area coordinator that's in his area actually knows him quite well and has talked with him also. And what I understand that the situation is that when somebody's going to public school and they start missing a lot, they start missing class, not showing up for whatever reason, and I make no evaluation about whether they were sick or bullied or truant and just didn't show up, or I don't know. But they build up a history with that school district
Right.
And then right now, if they leave that school district and move into another school district or transfer across the county line, their record of truancy does not follow with them. Their record of attendance doesn't follow with them. Some of the students, as I understand, if they get in conflict with the powers that be, may leave their public school and enroll in homeschooling
Right.
as a means of dodging that accountability. And whether that is a good thing or not a good thing, to me, requires a lot more detailed analysis than just having an opinion about it. So yeah, I think there's certainly something to be evaluated with some wisdom and reasonableness.
Right.
But as my understanding, the intent of Senator Lowe is to try to provide some means of letting that record be used across from one school district to another, from one judge to another judge.
Right. That's if they go from one LEA to another, but it doesn't, if they have, from what I've read in the bill, if they've missed a certain number of days, and it's not a very, we're not talking, hey, weeks, we're talking like, I think it mentions like 5 days.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That's, they could actually end up being not allowed to homeschool, and a judge, the local juvenile judge, could say, no, we're going to put you in this public school. And I think that's a problem, in my opinion.
No, absolutely a problem. So yeah, we try to understand what the intention of the sponsor is initially, so that we can then begin trying to construct a means of how we would request revision to the bill. So that's kind of the status where we are with that bill right now. We got a real problem with the bill, and we don't support it as it's currently written.
Okay.
And so and you can, if you want to track how THEA is looking at the different legislation, we have a weekly publication that comes out, the THEA Observer.
Okay.
And we have a reporter that tracks what's going on in the legislature. And then we, first of all, in the start of the year, work to identify all the legislation that's going to affect home education. And then we look at that legislation and evaluate, do we support that? Do we oppose it? Do we want to try to get that changed? We also reach out to the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They have an attorney that is assigned to work with Tennessee. HSLDA has members in Tennessee, and so they have an attorney to work with their member families.
Right.
And that's a different footprint from THA families and HSLDA families. It's two different footprints, but working with the same laws. And so our good friend Will Estrada is an attorney with HSLDA assigned to Tennessee. And so we work with him in trying to understand the law and to understand how we can go about seeking modification to it. So he'll probably be here on that Tuesday week to testify about that bill in subcommittee. And because, as we work together, that's part of the way that works out.
So do you guys send out alerts then through that observer about, hey,
that's what the observer is. Yeah.
Make phone calls, emails, maybe show up at a committee meeting. Is that something you encourage your members to do?
What we try to do is we try to have a full set of options. And what we then try to do is to evaluate, where are we on a scale? Is this something that we want to just say, this bill probably doesn't have any chance of moving anywhere? Are we for it or against it? And so we'll take a position on the bill. We may find that a bill has got some problem to it, so we reach out to the sponsor and try to identify what the sponsor's intent is, and then is he accomplishing that intent with the least amount of intrusion or damage to the homeschool community. And if we find that the sponsor is willing to work with us, then we try to help draft legislation modification amendments so that we can make the bill something that is either attractive or at least less destructive. Sometimes you have somebody that comes after us with a bill that's going to negatively impact home education.
Right.
It's intended to do that. It is unquestionably and immovably oriented in that direction, and we're going to come out with everything we can to go after legislation like that. So we try to measure the kind of response that is most appropriate for the particular bill that we're dealing with. And so sometimes, yeah, full blown, go after them, everything, blow out everything. Some of them a lot more measured, a lot more stepped down, and there's a lot of negotiation there. With having our Valley Day since 1985 down with the legislature, with building those relationships with the legislators over those decades,
Right.
They understand that we're trying to be cooperative with the system that we completely disagree with. Compulsory attendance is ungodly. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's not for free people. It's for people that are slaves. It teaches a slavish mentality.
Well, I agree with that. I think
So yeah, we're trying to dial that back with everything we can. We're trying to imbue as much freedom for as many families as are willing to take the pathways that are open and to go in and to teach their children to be free men and women. That's exactly what we hope that we can get done. And so we try to preserve as much of that freedom with as much integrity and with as much winsomeness as we possibly can.
Okay. And actually, I don't know if I actually talked to you about this one or not.
But that's okay. We can talk about it, yeah. And we've reached out to Representative Mayberry on this bill, and he received requests from a group that used to be a gentleman that used to be working down there in state government and has now moved out and is working as a lobbyist. And this bill is designed to only affect 3 schools in the state, and is a very tightly written bill for that. It is not something that we necessarily think that it is directly a threat to homeschooling, because this deals with students that are in an online school, so they're not what THEA would call homeschooling, and so we're concerned about bills, whether they're bad or good, based on the principles, the biblical principles of fathers train your children. But this particular bill is written, according to the sponsor and according to the people that asked for the bill to be put on the books, is written for 3 schools to help them with an issue associated with their online schools, is what we understand. And our attorney, the HSLDA attorney, is tracking this, and we reached out to the person that asked for the bill to be introduced in the first place. So we're trying to keep our eye on this bill so it doesn't get modified,
Right.
and expand its
Yeah,
impact.
well, does it list the 3 schools anywhere in the bill? Does it say
No, it
the 3
doesn't.
schools?
It doesn't list the 3 schools. That's the thing about legislation, is that if you try to introduce a particular group into the law, then legislators would rightfully say, well, you're giving an economic advantage to this particular group because you've listed them in the law. So, okay, you write it in a more generic way, so then it's harder to find who.
Right, but if you don't define it, then it'll be applied elsewhere.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Now, so just to recap, 1729 by Slater, depending on how that is amended, if it's amended the right way, then you guys are going to support it.
We don't support it the way it's currently written.
Okay, you're opposed to it
work with the
currently,
sponsor to try to find a good amendment.
Okay.
And we're prayerful that amendment will be adopted.
Okay, and then you're not supporting 1968, Senate Bill 1968. That's not something you're supporting. And then this other bill, this last bill, with Representative Mayberry, and Senator Powers, 1896, and Senate Bill 2449. You're watching that one, but it's not something you're pushing for or opposing, but you're watching it. But just like we just said, okay, maybe they can't name it specifically, but if they can't name it, then it's awful hard to limit.
Yes, sir. Because you get somebody to interpret.
Absolutely.
You get that local superintendent that interprets it one way or another, and there you're off to the courts, and then can the case be strongly made enough that no, this doesn't affect this school. It's only for that school over there. So that's the hard. Yeah.
Let me ask you about vouchers. Because the vouchers, I know that they're primarily being used for private schools. Are you guys encouraging, your homeschoolers to use vouchers? Discouraging, or you take no position? I'm just curious.
We have an unalterable position of opposition to vouchers. We have seen what happened in Alaska. We've seen what's happened in Iowa. We see if the government says to you, here's some free money, next year, or
Yep.
the year after, or the year after, or the year after, or the year after, you're going to have a legislator that's going to stand up and say, we're giving this money to these homeschoolers.
Yep.
We don't know what that money is being used for. We've got to come in and have some kind of evaluation. We've
Yep.
got to evaluate because state money
Yep.
is being given to them, and I am going to be fiscally irresponsible if I don't find out how that money is being spent. So, well intended today,
Yep.
no strings today, but I can guarantee you it is impossible for the state to give you money and for them not come back and say, show us where the money's going.
Yep.
And here's your report card on your work, and you will be found deficient and you will lose control of your school.
Absolutely. And
Fathers train your children. This bunch does not respect that at all.
Yeah.
Zero respect for that.
absolutely. And as we talked earlier, it's not even constitutional. The Constitution lays out for free public education, state constitution. Doesn't
Yeah,
say
that's
anything.
a fascinating thing. Our state constitution says the legislature would make available
Yep.
a free system of public schools.
Yep.
Making it available is one thing.
Yep.
Setting up a building and saying you must send your child there, that's a totally different thing.
Yep.
1905 is when the change happened in Tennessee.
And you know what? I'm going to bet it's one of those things that all within a few years just happen to be happening all across the country.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Massachusetts was first with Horace Mann back in, I think it was 1855, I think. It was a direct response to our good Tennessee president, Andrew Jackson, and his taking over the banks. And they decided this bunch of having a free people out there that think for themselves, we can't tolerate that. Thomas Dewey said it best, American people are too independent-minded. They're too creative. They've got to be dumbed down so they can be more easily controlled by the central government. And compulsory attendance is the tool that's being used effectively to dumb us down so that we can be more easily controlled by the central government. That's what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Hey,
Other than that, I have no opinion, I'll say.
okay. You got any closing thoughts?
Yes, sir. I appreciate your work and appreciate your getting a message out, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And you know, when God reaches out and reaches into somebody's heart and says, "Look, walk in my truth," when He says, "Look at my word, fathers train your children," and you say, "Lord, increase my faith." I don't understand how that's going to happen, but we're here to help you. Tennessee Home Education Association was formed to help moms and dads who made the decision or who are making the decision they want to teach their kids at home. It's hard work. It is drastically hard work, as every COVID mom and dad that pulled their kid out and started homeschooling can tell you.
Yeah.
It's hard work. But if you have a team of people that are helping you, it makes it a lot easier. So that's what we're here to do.
Well, hey, I appreciate you being on. I'm all for ending compulsory ed. Maybe we can get somebody to sponsor that next year. You know, you got to get that first person to sponsor it and make it an issue. And it's not going to happen the first year, but you got to get somebody that's got the backbone to do it, to make the arguments, and then build on that. I mean, I think it can be done. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think that's probably one of the most important things we could do.
Well, I've been working on it for 41 years, so let's keep at it and get it done.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks again. Thanks for what you do, and we have you back on sometime.
Thank you very much, Dave. Pleasure to be with you.
You have a good night. Take care.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight, and we've got a couple of announcements here. If I can pull them up on the screen, apologize. But first off, hey, once again, we appreciate you listening to us. We need you to subscribe. We really need to hit that 1,000 mark just to kind of help us stay on the air and keep good stuff coming. And it doesn't cost you anything. So we were earlier at about 922, so we need about another 8. We need 78. And I think we can do it. So we appreciate you. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure that you share this with your friends, and we'll try to keep good stuff coming. If you have ideas about what you'd like to see on here, let us know. Send us an email. Check out our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, Teen Informer. Monty Fritz will be speaking tomorrow night, February 24th, 6 p.m. at the Jackson County GOP at the New Hope Baptist Church, 311 North Murray in Gainesboro, Tennessee. He will also be speaking Friday, February 27th from 8:30 to 10 a.m. Central at Shoney's in Crossville, located on 4148 Highway 127 North. Join us next Monday, March 2nd, 7 p.m., when our guest will be Tiffany Boyd of Free Your Children. We'll be here to discuss more homeschool education issues and some legislation that she's concerned about as well. And then at 8:30 Central, our guest will be Dr. Joseph Sanson. He's here to discuss legislation that declares mRNA vaccines a bioweapon. You need to hear this. Also, this Wednesday at 9 p.m., we'll do a special show with Richard Archie on the danger posed to our rights by Senate Bill 1958 and House Bill 1971. I talked about those a little earlier in the first show. You're going to want to hear what Richard has to say about this. Please take time to check out our other shows as well, brought to you by West Tennessee TV by going to westtennesseetv.com or myparistv.com. You can find links to the Mike Weatherford Show and Sportscast with Jeremy Bucklew. Tomorrow, Mike welcomes to the show Burton Staggs to talk about ongoing cases throughout the state of Tennessee, including a few national stories, such as the Arizona case of Nancy Guthrie. Next Sunday, it's episode 3 of the Spring Sports Preview featuring Edward Getty, head coach of the Patriots tennis team. That's it for now. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.